Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy to have another former, well, she's still working with me, but I worked with her very closely a couple of years ago, and she is a former client. And now she's coming on after her postpartum journey. And she's transitioning back into the work world. She wants to share her offers and gifts with you and just her amazing story of healing, both physically through the work that I helped her with and healing with her own journey and discovery. Her name is Natasha Jackson. She is a self-discovery coach and holistic brand consultant. She has a love for combining science, spirituality, and strategy and helping people find their way from one place to the next, from who they were to who they want to become. And this transition is between personal, professional, and a spiritual level. And she spans these worlds seamlessly to offer supportive guidance, whatever stage you're at. Whether you're on a journey of self-discovery or venturing into a new business development, her role is to facilitate deep self-connection and inner trust. She is a trained NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist meets marketing and startup expert, as well as an avid explorer of all things esoteric. She pulls in exercises and tools from a vast pool of references, creating a truly unique and powerful approach to coaching and consulting. She is so passionate about helping people carve their own path in this life, and she would love nothing more to play a part in your soul expanding journey. Her story is just so inspiring. We discussed how she came to find me and work with me a few years ago and what led her to be on this path of personal development herself. It all started off with a trauma in her childhood. And then when I worked with her, I think we started in 2020, she was dealing with a whole host of symptoms. She had a PCOS diagnosis and many of the symptoms associated with that, including skin issues, and fatigue and anxiety was a big one. And after rebalancing her gut and her minerals and her hormonal health, she was actually able to fall pregnant first time. And this is despite her PCOS diagnosis and being told that that might never happen for her. So this is just a story of inspiration. And I love what she shares about her transition into motherhood from maiden to mother, and the way she frames it makes it seem so exciting to me, because she said it can actually be a very healing spiritual journey, the act of growing a child and giving birth. And she said it can be amazingly empowering, not at all what they portray in the movies. She shares some of her favorite tools: NLP, hypnotherapy. She was supported with a birth doula during her pregnancy, so she talks a little bit more about that. It was just really a nice catch up for us as well. Well, we've not spoken in a little while, but she's actually going to be continuing working with me. She's doing some lab tests at the moment. So at this stage, I'm just a practitioner she turns to keep her health on track and keep her feeling really good, because she knows the importance of taking care of herself as a business owner and practitioner and now mum, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So we also discussed how her business and work has changed, how she found the postpartum period and just getting back into work. And I just want to have her on in case any of you are looking for someone to support you with your business and your plans and just getting them out into the world. Natasha would be an amazing person to help you do that. She very kindly gave us a discount code as well, which I mentioned towards the end of the episode, but I'll just say it here as well. Now, if you sign up to her Cocoon package, which is the coaching package, or her Rebirth consultancy package, use the code VIVA for 15% off. And you can send her an email and DM on Instagram to book a 30 minutes free chemistry call to chat further. So there are some terms and conditions within that, and I'll put them in the show notes along with her links and where you can find her. But I really hope you enjoy this episode. We were, yeah, again, just catching up, and I just really wanted to share this episode as well with you all in case you're going through something similar. If you're going through grief, if you're struggling to know what your purpose is, if you're having an identity crisis, if you are pregnant, or if you've just given birth, or if you just want to hear two holistic gals have a bit of a chat and a chin wag, then you're going to love this one. So let me introduce you to my lovely client, Natasha Jackson. Hi, Natasha. Welcome to the podcast. This is so fun having a former client, and now we're going to discuss and just have a little bit of a catch up about your journey the past few years. And just as one of my clients any successes, any wins, what you enjoyed, but then you're doing amazing things in the world as well. So I wanted to have you on to share that. So welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice to be on. Like, obviously, listened to the podcast for a while and worked with you for a long time now, on and off. So, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
And I know your health journey, so I go deep into a client's health history, even family history, and how you were born, were you breastfed, were you bottle fed?
Yeah.
I know all the intimate details, so we're not going to go into that today. But I'd just love for you to share your general story and how you got to where you are today. Because, yeah, I know you've been through some difficult times, and in the past year, life has changed again. You've become a mum for the first time. So we've got a few different directions that I want to go today, but in whatever way you want to share in as much detail as you'd like, yeah, tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, I guess I think for me, my whole story starts around grief. Just to go straight in there. Yeah, my mum passed away when I was 11, and that was obviously quite a big T trauma. And then since then, there were so many subsequent shockwaves that happened within the family that I guess that initial trauma should have been the the thing that was the most traumatic, but actually how things were managed after that were essentially harder to deal with. Um, there was a lot of breakdown in communication with the family. My dad wasn't around very much. My sister and I, although we're really close now, we were kind of all very fragmented, and we were just like these, it was the three of us just existing and trying to get through this big loss. Fast forward to the 20s, my teens and 20s, and the way in which I dealt with that was very much through drugs and alcohol. I was your typical party girl, and always tried to hide from, maybe not even hide, just tried to process things through, through kind of just being a bit wild. And I think when you're doing these things, especially with drugs, you can have these like really deep conversations that perhaps weren't available to me when I was sober. So it was very much a way of coping. And I think obviously, there was the emotional impact of losing my mum, but then the stuff I was doing to myself physically was gonna have a massive impact on my health eventually. So it was in my mid-20s. I actually saw a naturopath before you, and no shade against her. I think I was just in a very fragile position, but she did some cortisol tests on me, and she was like, "Are you a daily cocaine user?" And actually, at the time, I wasn't, but my stress was so high that it was all just kind of, oh. And I found actually that this whole process that I've gone through with you in a very different way was just completely overwhelming and way more stressful. And I remember being like terrified to go into the supermarket because I just had no idea like what I could eat, and I was like kind of scared of food. And it also was a different time, when I was in my early 20s. I didn't know anyone else that was gluten free. I didn't know anyone who was kind of suffering with their health in the way that I was. So yeah, it felt like a very, very sort of lonely journey. So I was really happy when I met you, because I felt like it was a much softer and more collaborative approach to healing, and not so much everything you're doing is completely wrong. And and I also think we did things in like sections rather than doing everything all at once, which I think can be completely overwhelming.
Even I reviewed some of your notes today, and you said like nothing's really off limits, so I'll just sharing the main symptoms that we were tracking the whole time. There were others, as there are with like every client, but I usually pick 2 to 3 top symptoms that are easily trackable from different body systems. So it's not just 3 digestive symptoms or skin symptoms. So for you, it was issues with your sleep, especially falling asleep. So did already tell me something was going on with your adrenals, your circadian rhythm. Anxiety was a big one, and also then your skin. So then we, after the first session, did some lab work. We did see some hormone imbalances, blood tests. You had high testosterone, high prolactin, if you remember. minerals, this calcium shell, which is very linked to stress and trauma. So no coincidence there. And yeah, that would make sense with your history. And often it shows that people, even if they've been trying to reduce their stress and maybe they're not living the party lifestyle anymore, they've stopped the behaviors, but if you've still been left with this physical imbalance as a result of the trauma, it can still make you feel a similar way. It can be hard for you to process the grief or release the trauma or calm your nervous system if you still have a physical imbalance, like a mineral imbalance. So we were working on that. We were working on low electrolytes, which is another symptom of long-term stress. Sometimes big T trauma stressors, even if it was several decades ago. But a lot of people now, it's these low-grade small stresses, these just little day-to-day things that don't seem life-threatening. They're not life-threatening, but they're not what our body is designed to be like dealing with. Things like air pollution and social media and electromagnetic frequencies and poor quality food and soil depletion. These are constant low-grade mini stressors that can also deplete our electrolytes and our minerals. And then we also did the organic acid urine test. So you were like, I'll do pretty much anything test-wise. Let's just get the results. And the tests really do help me. They're not required. The mineral test, I don't know if at the time, but it is now, is included in the package because I feel like everyone can benefit from that. But then on top of that, the others are more optional. But the more data that I have, the more beneficial it is and the faster you are going to get results. So yeah, what I appreciated about you is the fact that you were like, yes, I'll do whatever I need to. You were really good with the supplements and following the plan to the best of your ability. I don't expect people to be perfect, but you're like the ideal client, honestly. Hopefully the results were worth it. But if you remember from the urine test that we did, we found out that in your gut, because this urine test can indicate a lot of different things. It can look at your neurotransmitters, it can look at your mitochondria, which are your energy producers of the body. But it does give insight into gut health too. So although we didn't do a specific gut test, I think you'd done that previously, it did still show bacterial imbalances and fungal imbalances as well. So yeah, throughout the months that we were working together, I think we started in 2020 or around that time. And yeah, the last time we spoke was when you were pregnant and your daughter Iris is now 10 months old. So yeah, it's just nice to, this is what I like about working with clients is that I initially help them and they go through a package to begin, but then it's nice to have a practitioner who knows your history, who you can come back to as and when needed. But I don't want to have to be working with someone very closely for the rest of their life. That's not really a good sign. It's not a sign that I've done my job if someone's like, I need you to be healthy, or I always have to be on these like 20 different supplements and this strict plan. I kind of, my goal is to get you feeling as good as possible, and then I'll still be here if you need me long term to check in when you're pregnant or once or twice a year to do a lab test. So I feel like the lab testing can be really useful. And I know that you were maybe surprised with some of the things, but then other things you're like, yes, it makes sense based on my symptoms, maybe with the gut imbalances, although I can't remember at the time if digestive symptoms were a top thing or whether it was just manifesting as skin issues or mood issues. That can definitely happen. But what do you remember for when you did the lab test and we had that lab review session a couple of months in? How did you feel? Were you like, this is amazing, I've got answers now, or were you a little bit overwhelmed? Like you've gone from not knowing what's going on to here are 10 different things that we're going to be working on.
No, I found it like so validating actually, because I'm sure 99.9% of your clients have the same story, but you know, you've kind of gone to the doctors a few times, you know, things aren't right, you're not feeling well, and no one's listening to you. So, you know, in working with you, I got all these answers and a kind of a validation from what I was going through emotionally, because obviously, yes, you know, skin condition, whatever, that's kind of like one part of things, but it was a nudge to help me really work on my emotional well-being as well, because obviously they're super linked. And really interesting what you were saying about the calcium and stuff, and it's just part of this massive whole picture. And I think I spent my 20s sort of bouncing between working on my mental health, working on my physical health, blah, blah, blah. And it was only when I started to put those things together that I really saw a change. And actually, I don't know if you remember, but when I first came to you, I'd been told many moons before that I wouldn't get pregnant without IVF because I had PCOS. And then actually fast forward to when we started trying, I got pregnant the first month. Just goes to show, like,
that happened around that time. There was something in the air because so many people, especially with a PCOS diagnosis, that is a condition that I specialize in. But so many DMs. I think I shared one person's positive pregnancy test, and then you were DMing me, and other people were like, me too, me too. So yeah, I had the same technically diagnosis, and that was like a worry for a while. But knowing what I know now, PCOS being a symptom of imbalances in the body, and you can address every single cause of that, every single underlying imbalance. You can't change the genetics, but
yeah,
the problem that I have with the medical system is when they tell young women things like that,
no,
it's
no,
just infuriating. Um, Fair enough, there are people out there who maybe structurally have abnormalities that IVF would be an amazing solution, and that's what where modern medicine thrives and shines. But to be told something like that, even if someone doesn't seem massively affected at the time, it does have an effect. You know all about the subconscious mind, and just having that from these people who we go to, who we think are the authority and they know everything, it can just subconsciously have an impact on someone just in the back of their mind. They're always going to be worrying, and that can have an impact on fertility. So as part of my work now, I'm always working on the mindset or any limiting beliefs that people have, because I began to learn after a few years coaching, I could be telling someone the exact steps and plan that they need to follow, but some people don't, or some people actually deep down don't believe that they can get better, don't believe
yeah,
that they can live without digestive issues or anxiety. They think it's part of who they are. So
yeah,
yeah, I was pushed to learn more about that, and then I started to realize it's actually a huge deal.
yeah.
So yeah, the
It's
pregnancy thing, that it is so amazing. It's just proof that a healthy body wants to be fertile and can be fertile. And even if you have a diagnosis of endometriosis, PCOS, I've even had clients be diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. They came off the pill after being on it for 10, 20 years, didn't have a period. They were approaching their late 30s at this point, told that you're not going to get your period back, it's too late, and you're basically infertile and pretty much in menopause. And after working with me for a year or two, periods are back regular every single month. And yeah, it's just sad that we're told these things, but that's why I'm trying to get people's stories out there to show that it is actually possible.
yeah, and it's so important because it's just so sad. I know, like, so I'm 34 now, and like my group of friends, it's like suddenly fertility has become this really, it's like a sliding door moment where one minute we're all sort of in the same space and maybe we're all meeting partners and maybe we're getting married, maybe we're choosing not to, whatever. But then this baby thing happens and some people are having issues, some people aren't. And it's always really interesting to me that a lot of people won't explore something outside what the doctor said though. Like, you know, a lot of people will just take what the doctor has said and kind of not move beyond that. So I think that's why it's so amazing to have voices like yours and trying to amplify them, because if people just knew, actually, you know, a little bit of time, a little bit of dedication, and you could you know, you could get pregnant first month like I did. And it's yeah, it's just kind of trying to get that information out there as much as possible, because the medical system is just not supporting that at all.
And you can apply that to any condition. It doesn't even have to be fertility. It could be IBS. It's just something that you're going to have to live with, take this medication long term, manage symptoms. It could be your skin. Like I was told, food has no impact on your skin at all. And even me, before I was a practitioner, I just knew that that wasn't true, because I knew every time I would eat high sugar foods at the time, dairy was a trigger. I've since healed that by working on my gut health. But I just knew every time I ate certain foods, it did get worse. So them telling me that was just ridiculous, really, because it doesn't even make sense. The food that you eat literally becomes your body and your cells. So just being really mindful to get sometimes second opinions and have the medical system there for checkups and investigations and surgeries and scans, but
Yeah.
try to rule in or rule out like holistic recommendations first. So go to a holistic practitioner, see if something's going on with your diet, if there's any deficiencies, because I feel like this world is amazing for these chronic health issues and these things like fertility and skin issues and digestive issues, whereas the medical system can be amazing for these interventions, car crashes, surgeries, accidents. That's where that world shines. So we have a nice balance between the two, but I feel like the holistic world should be the first go-to. And people are happy to drop thousands and thousands of pounds on IVF and fertility treatments and top specialists like in the country. But when I ask them to change their diet or take a few supplements every month, they're like, oh, that's a bit much, or pay for a lab test. It's because we're so used to the medical system being covered in the UK, the NHS. Anytime it's private, people are a little bit funny about that. But then when it comes to IVF, people can be very desperate, which I understand. They just want to get pregnant right away, or they've been on the fertility journey for a while, so they'll happily just spend crazy amounts of money. But there's so much that you can do with the lifestyle and nutrition. At the end of the day, if you've bypassed that, if you've used these artificial inseminations or these practices to fall pregnant, and you've still got PCOS, or you've still got something going on with your body, that doesn't just go away. You've just bypassed that, but there's something still going on in your body that might then manifest in a different way or just get worse and start to affect other areas of the body. So we see these symptoms, we see these conditions and labels as your body trying to communicate with you, a current imbalance that's going on. And a lot of the time, it's not something that's doomed and destined forever. It's something that your body's trying to like tell you, give you a little alert that something's going on. So yeah, I'm glad that you had a positive experience. And even if you were told that back in the day when you were diagnosed with PCOS, had you done any mindset work on that, or is it just that?
I guess not on that particularly. I've been doing a lot of mindset work in my own general life, but I think in all honesty, I kind of forgot.
But it was just super fertile.
Yeah, because I knew I've been doing good stuff for my body. I never thought I'd get pregnant first try. That was a genuine surprise. But I I'd kind of ruled out IVF in my head. Not ruled out, but I didn't think of it as a first point of call because everything that I was told medically at that point was not factually correct in terms of like where I've got to now. So I kind of just
I'm like everything I've ever done has always been very like damaging, or I would leave every appointment in tears, even more frustrated, even more confused. So I was like, why would that be any different from something else that I choose to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got more of a balanced approach with the medical system these days. I was very against them for a while. But yeah, tell us a bit more about so you fell pregnant first time round. And I think, did I help you transition off the coil as well, if I remember correctly? Yeah.
Yeah. When was that? That was a while ago. God, I can't remember. But yes, you did.
So yeah, you came to me, you had the coil. I don't know if you already knew at the time that you wanted to come off, or if I maybe told you about the impact of that and how it wasn't actually regulating anything and wasn't like my top choice for contraception, if that was the goal at the time. But yeah, I saw that in your notes too.
Yeah, the coil was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. It's really funny. I actually got it done on holiday in Dubai. My auntie was like,
People get tattoos, you get a coil.
my sister. I think my auntie, obviously, like where our mum's not around and stuff, we were just having a bit of a heart to heart, and neither of us were on anything. I think she was kind of like, if you're not thinking about having kids just yet, like we should do something about that. And
Is she a doctor?
No, but
Oh.
she had a woman that she saw privately and kind of just set us an appointment, and She was a gynecologist, and she kind of very quickly was like, this would be the right thing. And I think it was in that appointment, we then got them put in. And it was so painful. And this is to sort of, everyone's what's right for you is what's right for you. It just did not work for me, and I had like spotting for weeks, really bad cramping.
Yours was the hormonal one, the Marina, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
So people think then to go to the copper one, which is technically non-hormonal, but
yeah,
just heads up, that can be just as problematic.
yeah,
Because the impact of mineral imbalances, then localized inflammation. Yeah, they can have an issue with it, your body literally rejecting it.
right.
Pain with the copper one, it can contribute to like really heavy, painful periods because of the impact that it. So it's not directly hormonal, but copper can actually stimulate estrogen, so it can actually throw off your own natural hormones.
It's just mad, isn't it? Like it's actually just mad to me how like that's even a thing. You just insert this like piece of metal or whatever the marine core is made up into your womb, and that's like the first step.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a gynecologist. Can I insert this in your womb so you don't have a baby? Like, what world are we living in where that's just like a normal thing?
Mhm.
It's
It's
crazy.
like some medieval torture device or something.
It's mad. It's mad.
So coming off that, you knew that you wanted a family, and all of the things that we were doing as well to support you were indirectly helping with that. So even like balancing your hormones for your skin, regulating blood sugar levels, improving your diet, working on this like gut health.
Mm,
Even if people have future goals and they want to reduce their risk of diseases in the future, all of the stuff that we're doing is going to help with that. It has such a knock-on effect on the rest of your life.
mm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm just so grateful that I met you. Actually, just thinking back to all of that stuff, because I think even with the kind of physical attribute stuff, I think really what was massive for me is how I felt when I came to you, like that anxiety and just kind of I was very like panicked all the time, like something in my system wasn't right and I knew it and I couldn't figure it out on my own. And actually, like obviously, because I know you had skin conditions as well, like that all just impacts it all. Like that just makes you feel so much worse. But on a kind of spiritual level, I was not happy. I was in a nice relationship and I married the guy in the end. But and life was fine. I was just very like my whole body just felt in stress, like I was stressed.
So the things that we do, again, cleaning up your diet, balancing minerals. At the time, I hadn't done my additional training, so I've since qualified as a life coach. I do EFT, hypnosis, subconscious reprogramming.
Mm.
But even then, I had to know like how to support someone, and I'd been through my own journey. If they are struggling with acne or chronic health issues, they can't live the life that they want to. They're stuck in indoors all day because they have chronic fatigue, chronic pain. So I had to learn how to support them through that. And having my own personal journey, I could really empathize.
Mm.
But yeah, with all of the things that we were doing, that was all indirectly lowering your stress bucket too. So I know you then went on to do further trainings and a lot of mindset work that you've done over the years, but even just working on the physical body, it really improves your tolerance to stress. It increases your resilience so that on a biochemical level, if your neurotransmitters are off or if your minerals are off, your nervous system can literally not relax. You could be doing all of the breath work and meditation all day long, but if your body just doesn't have the tools that it needs, the building blocks to make these calming hormones, then that's why people can really struggle. So yeah, we were working on the physical level. So on that, with all of the things that we did, I know we've worked together for a few years. We did lots of different protocols to help with the digestive things and the minerals. But let's aim for maybe three things that really stuck with you or you feel like made the biggest difference from what we tried. It could be a supplement, it could be some sort of like detox tool, it could be a diet change that we made.
I think the first one that springs to mind is like committing to being gluten free.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I needed to be gluten free before, but I really struggled with that, and that's why I think it's so good that you did your mindset stuff because I remember like, yeah, when I first went gluten free in my early 20s, like people weren't really doing that. And I felt very kind of like I didn't want to be a pain and I didn't want to like stick out and I didn't want people to have to like fuss over me. I was very like conscious of those sorts of things. But actually, in committing to something so small as to, I know that this is bad for my health and I am going to stand out and I am going to be a bit of a pain, is actually, again, like on a spiritual level, very empowering. Like to actually suddenly be like, oh, okay, like I matter and I'm going to have a voice in this space or
It's
whatever.
not neglecting your health just to please someone else and make them not feel uncomfortable.
And isn't that mad? That I mean, I don't know if you ever experienced that, but like that's I genuinely wanted to feel so small that I wouldn't impact someone.
Yeah, it's such a good metaphor for life. And it seems like really tiny, but it actually does have a knock-on effect on how are you doing that in other ways.
Exactly. So I think that was actually huge for me. And being strict gluten free, it's been a game changer. And actually, we've kind of decided that our daughter's not going to have gluten because my partner's gluten free as well. Like, so that's yeah. I I dislike gluten, and I am really pleased that you supported me into cutting that out. So I would say that was the first one. Um, Supplement wise, I would say, I mean, I feel like magnesium, but I feel like that's maybe an obvious one. Um, I think maybe the beef liver
Mm.
actually. I feel like that had a really kind of like I just feel really supported by that as a supplement in general. I feel like it's got all the bits that I need in it, and
Yeah,
I
it's
don't.
like very nourishing and
Yeah.
just with it being a whole food based supplement, it can be just a lot better tolerated, especially if someone has anxiety. If
Mm,
I threw in like a really high strength methylated B complex, which I know I did at some point, some people it's just a bit too much too fast. So I often
mm,
like to use beef liver as like a either a long-term maintenance or just to start off with, just to balance things out a little bit because it does contain B vitamins, but it's just at much lower doses and in more natural quantities. Whereas a B complex, I do use them if someone shows to have a major B12 deficiency or B6 deficiency. The beef liver at that stage isn't going to be enough to cut it. But
mm.
yeah, I love it for that. Plus, it's got some iron in there and iron cofactors that help to regulate things. So if your iron can swing, which I know yours has done over the years, sometimes a little bit too high, which mine was prone to, my ferritin, iron storage, whereas other people it goes too low. So I find that beef liver is just a nice balancer. And then also the retinol slash vitamin A, really good for skin health, immune health, and thyroid function. So yeah, just a good all rounder. It's still one of my favorite supplements.
Yeah, it's fab. And then the third thing, I've got to mention King of Coffee because I'm obsessed with it.
Same.
It's really
It's
good,
not what
but
before the call.
it's so good. It's so good. But I also kind of on a more of emotional level, I think it's not a supplement, but I think actually like following your story and stuff on Instagram has been also very good for my healing journey. Like you've been really good at being very transparent about your own thing, and I really respect the authentic way in which you tell your story. And I think that's actually really powerful to kind of um, yeah, you're on the journey with people. You've kind of I know you've overcome it now, so it's a slightly different angle, but to sort of know it's possible, I think is like we're talking about reprogramming. That's like we need more of that
More
in
evidence.
more
Yeah, to
evidence.
my clients now, like
Yeah,
listen to podcasts and read books of people who've had spontaneous, miraculous healing who were told
yeah,
that it wasn't possible with fertility. Look at examples of people like yourself who were diagnosed with X condition or told that it wasn't going to happen naturally, and just see these, yeah, inspirational stories. Um, and just with my journey, I was still sharing when I was studying and I had inflamed skin and chronic fatigue and brain fog. And at the time, I knew that I wanted to share, but there was a part of me like imposter syndrome. How can I be sharing and promoting health when I A look like this and B have still chronic illness? But that didn't stop me helping other people. And it didn't stop me knowing how to support someone else, even though it was challenging. There was all like twists and turns with my own journey, and I had to go through a lot more healing to get to where I am today. But it actually allowed people to connect with me. So I've had people following along from back in like 2017 and beforehand. And Sometimes they're just like a silent stalker. They just watch everything, just follow along. But then years later, they sign up, and like you just said, oh, I've been following for a long time. It's such an inspiring journey. I'm now ready to get help myself.
Yeah.
So I think the mentoring is so important, and even just with the work that you do now, you know
Mm.
the importance of having someone just guide you and support you. Even the best athletes in the world, the top, top professionals, they always have someone guiding them and coaching them. So I
Yeah.
just find that really important as part of like the success that I've had with my healing and business. I'm always looking to be guided, and I never feel like I know everything. But
Yeah.
that's just a nice mindset to be in. Just always be in a room of people who you can learn from. You don't ever want to be the person in the room who knows everything because you're in
Yeah.
the wrong rooms.
But again, I think that's such an like, people might look at you and think that you do know everything. And I love how you were saying that you were sharing your story before the ending, before the final goal. And I think I'm similar because I talk a lot about identity crises, but it takes one to know one. You have to. The reason why we do what we do is because we've been there, or we revisit it. Sometimes like health conditions might crop up again. Like identity always changes. Like when no one's reached the top of the mountain, it just sits there. Especially at our age, we're still really young. We've got loads to go. So yeah, I love that you were brave enough to do that because it's not an easy thing to do.
Well, thank you. And you've been vulnerable in sharing your story today. I appreciate you. I just want to check, are you addressing the healing foundations? Not sure what I mean. Well, these are the important factors that I believe that you need to address in order to be in optimal health and overcome your stubborn health issues and symptoms, whether that's chronic digestive issues, acne, hair loss, period problems, weight gain, anxiety, fatigue. I could go on. Because I want as many of you as possible to have this life-changing information, I've bundled together 6 of my juiciest and info-packed masterclasses priced at just £111. Not only are you getting these recordings, which are between 60 and 90 minutes long each, on the following subjects: the power of the subconscious mind, stress, trauma, and the nervous system, supporting your female menstrual cycle, mastering your metabolism, optimizing sleep, gut health and detox. You're also going to receive my healthy groceries shopping list and my favorite non-toxic products guide, which are both usually reserved for my one-to-one clients. Whether you're brand new to the holistic healing world or you've been trying to work on things for a while but feel stuck, I can guarantee there's something within this content that will help you to understand your next steps and what you're missing. Sometimes it's something so foundational that's being overlooked. Get instant access to the Foundations bundle today for just £111 by clicking the link in the episode show notes, and I can't wait to hear about what you've learned. Grab your pen and paper to make notes and get started today. And I'd love to know, just as a business owner, yourself, how has taking care of yourself impacted the work that you do with clients? Because I find that it's huge. Just I like to practice what I preach in filling up my own cup and taking time to balance out client calls with supporting myself, making sure that I'm not burning out and trying to do all the things. I like to refer out to other people, like my social media. I've got someone helping me with that. I've got someone helping me with my podcast. And at first it was just a little bit scary, like supporting someone else and paying someone else every month and letting go of certain projects and tasks that I felt like I had to do all myself. But
Yeah.
it's actually just been more of an advantage releasing some of that and just focusing on my area of expertise, which is the coaching and showing up on videos and podcasts and all of that. But I have quite a few clients. I've done a little series which you're featured on the podcast now with clients, and some of them are business owners, and I love to ask them, how are you doing this work? I know initially it wasn't for the benefit of your business necessarily, but have you seen any changes, or
Yeah.
just what is the connection with you looking after yourself and the work that you do now?
It's like the core of it's I couldn't be doing I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to be healthy. So before, I think when I first met you, I was still possibly employed. I was working for a big international event, and I was going to New York, Milan, and doing all this like really fun stuff. And then went freelance, and the first kind of the first business I had, I suppose, was an agency, and it was kind of more based on like marketing and storytelling and things. And then it distilled into what I'm doing now, which I think I had to make that move from agency to solopreneur, because as much as I loved working on big projects and managing people and kind of, yeah, kind of having these big outcomes, I really just needed to spend some time at that time with just myself. And I didn't want too much. And I suppose, yeah, the kind of clients you have are really important. I knew the kind of people I wanted to work with, and there were people like me, not necessarily massive organizations at that time. So I think the work that we did together has just almost helped shape how I work just in general, and also how I kind of encourage others to work. So when I'm consulting people, because most of them are solopreneurs, most of them in health and well-being, or trying to do something good for the people, planet. Like it's actually one of the things we talk about very early on is like how, like, okay, so what do you want to do, but like how do you want to do it? Because we get so stuck in these kind of, especially if we've left corporate, like what success looks like and what it means to be, what you have to do to be successful. And we've got these ingrained stories. It's like showing up super early, leaving super late, running 100 miles an hour. And it's actually like a lot of what I do is, which is similar to what you do, is kind of reshaping those stories and thinking like, okay, is that a story that actually benefits you? Like thinking about that more on a kind of societal level, like who does that story benefit? And it's the company you're working for. Like, sure, you might be getting money back from it, but your health is, the thing that's suffering. So it's helped me shape my business, but it's also helped me guide others into sort of living more healthily. And like I do recommend, I think you've worked with a couple of my clients where we have conversations, and I know that actually something that might be holding them back is their health, and the actual physical health is stopping them from doing what we need them to be doing, what their ambitions are to be doing. So yeah, I think maybe you're the same. I think over the years I've just sort of worked with lots of different people on lots of different things, and it's like it's like you've got little rocks that you're collecting from people, and you put it into your own bag, and you just get this like really good generic knowledge of like health. And sometimes you can give a stone back to someone, or sometimes it's about referring over completely. But I think, yeah, you've definitely been one of those people that has helped me define how I want to live. And for me, that's the same thing. Like, when you work for yourself, it's an expression of you.
I love that. And I feel like when you're struggling with your health, especially something like acne or fatigue, or if every month you've got debilitating period problems or digestive issues, you're just not thinking big picture, are you? You're not thinking how you can change the world, or about these like, yeah, extra personal things. It's just like, can I get through the day? Can I get through the month?
Yeah.
What's like the minimum amount of things I can do, because I just don't have the brain function and power. And then all of a sudden, if after years of struggling with that, you start to feel energized and you're waking up feeling refreshed and your digestion's working great, and you can now eat out after years of being restricted, and you don't have to worry about where the bathroom is or have time off work every month because of your menstrual cycle. It starts to open your mind up and open up opportunities, because you're no longer self-conscious. You're feeling confident, you're feeling energized, you're excited again, you've got your spark back. And then that has such a knock-on effect on all areas of your life. I feel like intuitively as well, just my intuitive gifts and connection to my gut feeling has also massively strengthened. When I was really sick, I was listening to the doctors and other people and outsourcing my power, because I thought someone needs to fix me, when in fact all I needed to do was always just turn inward and listen to my intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And actually, like, that what's so nice now, and I'm sure from when you were ill as well, there's just, I feel like that information is so much freer. Like I have a real love hate with Instagram because I don't think if I was a solopreneur I'd be on it. But then I'm so grateful for like the lens you can create in terms of like health, or now with motherhood, I've found some like more alternative information than what I'm receiving from the health visitor, for instance. Um, so yeah, at least there's that.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember the exact timeline, but yeah, first when you were working with me, I think you were employed, and then you were doing coaching, but then you've since added additional trainings to be hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner. So did that come before you fell pregnant?
Yes, yeah, it was lucky actually because I kind of had, so yeah, similar to what you were saying earlier about when you were kind of sharing before you were necessarily ready. I think like I've always been doing self-discovery stuff because it's just been something that identity's always just been a massive thing for me. And I think, well, I know that, you know, especially when you lose a parent, that kind of tends to be a bit of um, a subsequent outcome of that. And I've always just lent into like different things. Like I've done like psychic schools and all sorts of things, but just NLP really stuck out for me because the subconscious mind, dreaming, all that area is something I'm just so interested in. And I know from like how I've spoken before, where you'll say things like, oh, consciously I know blah blah blah, but blah blah blah, and you know that's the subconscious mind. And yeah, so I think I did that the year I had this crazy year where I was like getting married. I moved to Brighton, I retrained, I redirected my business, did it all the same thing, and then eventually ended up getting pregnant. But I just had one of those years where um, things needed to shift. And actually, funny enough, that was after we worked together in 2020, and then I think I moved to Brighton in like 2021, 2022, and it all just, things have just kind of slowly but surely I've moved more into alignment of who I am and what I should be doing and what I'm here to give. I think I spent a lot of time, again, in my 20s, figuring myself out, doing my work, but then you do get to a point where you want to be of service as well, and you want to share and support and guide back. So I think NLP was a way of me uh, channeling some of my intuitive knowledge, because I'm not a purist in anything. I've done a few trainings, but I like to just bring things in and do my own thing with it. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's good. Like you said, with the collecting little rocks before to help others, it's like we do all these little short courses and like little
Yeah,
workshops, and then you're like, I don't really know. Some of it seems very random. Like one minute I'm doing this, the next minute it's on a different level. But then you do at the end of it look back and see, oh, it actually all makes sense why I was drawn to that. And now I
yeah,
have a little toolkit of different techniques that I can use, and just depending on the person, on the client, I can just pull them out and yeah, use these different techniques. So I
yeah,
found the same, like at one point I was like, why am I doing this? At one stage I was like thinking of doing a Pilates instructor
yeah,
course. At that
yeah.
point I drew the line. I was like, I really don't need to do that. I can just keep that as a hobby. I don't need to create a business out of everything that I do. But yeah, I feel like all of the different things that you've tried, it's led to where you are today, running your business. But in the past 10 months, you've had your little girl. And I love what you said. I asked if there was anything that you wanted to cover in today's episode. And I loved it when you said how pregnancy and birth can be actually be a very healing journey. Birth is actually empowering, not what they portray in films. I feel like
Yeah.
that's such a refreshing perspective on it. And what exactly do you mean by that? Because
Okay.
yeah, I'm
So
obsessed.
the whole thing, I could talk about it for hours. So pregnancy for me was like the ultimate self-discovery journey. I think there's like loads of different vehicles. Career is one of them, and that's what I tend to talk about in my work. But there's loads of ways in which you can find things out about yourself. And actually, when you're pregnant, things, your perspective changes automatically. So like things kind of start popping up for you that perhaps you've forgotten about, or that you just hadn't thought about in that way. So for me, um, you know, how I was parented or motherhood, there was a lots of kind of like things that I was able to work through, but like exceptionally quickly. I I had a doula who's amazing, and doulas basically, they're not midwives or anything. They're just I say just, they're amazing women that support other women through pregnancy and birth. And she was just incredible at like any fears I had around the birth. We were like using those as ways in which to change the story. So I was initially really scared about pain, being unsupported. I had a real fear of being like the most vulnerable I've ever been, and like no one being around to help me. Obviously, my husband was always going to be there, but like that was kind of like my deep rooted fear about birth. But actually, I used my pregnancy to rewire that story, and I worked with people, and obviously did a lot of work myself. But you can actually use your birth as a way of like providing evidence. Now I know that like obviously, you know, there are lots of births that are out of your control, but there is so much you can do with mindset before. Like pain, for instance, we're sort of, it's portrayed as like this kind of like this thing that happens to us, and that, you know, you have these contractions, it's like but actually it's not happening to you, you're creating it. So your body is making the contractions to birth your baby. So
For your greater benefit, basically.
exactly, your body is doing what it's designed to do to help your baby come into the world. Like when you really think about that, it's not like someone standing there with a lighter and burning your skin. It's your body's actually doing what it's designed to do. And
it's the most natural process there is.
yeah, and it's I'm not saying it's not painful, but it's actually really, it's empowering. Like for me, I'd brainwash myself, I suppose, to the point where with every contraction or surge, whatever you want to call it, and hypnobirthing's amazing if you're interested in the subconscious mind, which you are. I really had like these mantras in my head of like, you know, every contraction, the baby's closer. We had post-its all around the house of like, yeah, just retraining myself into what I thought would be a bad thing. And we'd planned for a home birth, and my husband was amazing. Like he did loads of like one-on-one doula sessions with me and did hypnotherapy with me and stuff. And then at the last minute, the home birth team couldn't make it here, so we had to transfer into hospital. And it was very Bridget Jones. I was like 10 centimeters dilated by the time I got there. It was like I was in the birth pool at home, so I had to like get out the pool, get in the car and everything. But even with all that kind of chaos, I was just so in the zone. I was so in the zone, and I just really trusted. I really lent into, it was the most vulnerable I've ever been, but I truly believed that I was being held and supported, and that I had it. I didn't need anybody to interfere. And I remember the midwives afterwards were just like, wow, because I didn't take any drugs. I'd literally just got in the pool, was like, leave me alone, breathed out the baby, and then I was like, see ya. And I think one thing I'll probably talk about, so I'm blue in the face till I die, is I would implore people to look into like just hypnobirthing, or, you know, have a look at doulas and stuff, because again, the information that we're given about birth is like, I mean, it's just, it's completely, it's wild. Like, you know about hormones. So to have a baby, you have to have oxytocin. What kills oxytocin? Bright lights, stress, blah, blah. What do hospitals look like? Bright lights, stress. And it's just kind of like the way in which we're birthing is
even just a room full of strangers as well.
Exactly.
You feel like you know your doula, they've supported you throughout the pregnancy, and you're in a familiar setting. I know that home births aren't always possible, but that's definitely what I'm aiming for in the future. But yeah, even just learning about the lights and the different like techniques that you can do with hypnotherapy, hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
So exciting. Such a Big
primal.
world.
Well, you're gonna love it, and I can't wait to see like come from
Be
you, and
sure
then
to document the whole
yeah,
thing.
do, and then I can't wait to see what you say about like looking after children as well, because that's
Mm.
another bit of a minefield. Because obviously, if you're like us and you have a certain lens on health, it's very difficult when it's your baby to go against the grain. Like Iris had some digestive issues at the beginning, and they were suggested she goes on a mesropol, I think it's called, and I was just like, no, we're not going to give her like antibiotics or whatever they are. They're sort of 7 weeks old, like we're just not going to do it. So I'm really excited to see where that takes you, because I
Mm.
yeah
Yeah, I've
I'm,
got a few friends who, like practitioner friends who are mothers, and just in like our little WhatsApp groups. I'm just another little, I don't have anything to bring to the table. I have no experience, but even just being an auntie the past year,
yeah.
I, yeah, just learned so much. We didn't really have any other kids that I'm close to my family, so this is like the first chance, and I'm just living vicariously through them at the moment, just getting to, yeah, have some of my maternal instincts with her. And yeah, I'm excited to go through that. Not for a couple of years. People are very suspicious that I'm pregnant, but I'm not.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm so excited. And just the postpartum recovery is something else I wanted to speak about.
Yeah.
How you transitioned your business, like when did you get back to work? How have you found that health wise? Tell us.
Yeah, I really struggled postpartum because we had troubles breastfeeding, which like I never really appreciated would be such a massive thing. Like before, even when I was pregnant, it didn't really connect so much. Um, but when your baby gets here, the desire to feed them is
Hmm.
overwhelming. And
I feel like everyone's so focused on the pregnancy and the labor, and then you're like, amazing, done it. And now it's like, here's a whole nother load of things that you need to learn and experience.
yeah, and I'm for like for me, I had this really empowering and beautiful transformation in pregnancy and this birth that really was, it sounds dramatic, but it was a spiritual experience. I brought life into the world, and I really felt that. I felt very connected and um, in my space. But immediately afterwards, I sort of fell into this very vulnerable place, and I wasn't able to feed my daughter, and it was the classic. I was having midwives around, and they were saying everything looks great, and I was going, no, she's not feeding enough, and they were saying she's just cluster feeding. And I was like, no, she's hungry. I know she's hungry. Um, Eventually, we found out she had tongue tie. Um, got that snipped. Feeding was better for a while, but then unfortunately it grew back, um, which I didn't even know was a thing. So it took us a little while to figure that out. And in the meantime, my supply wasn't just able to build, because they have to, in the first few weeks, it's really important for them to be feeding really well, because that builds your supply. So I actually did something wild, and I went on a medication called domperidone, um, which is a fantastic drug to. It's actually an off-label thing, but it helps your prolactin, and so therefore helps your milk supply. Um, I say wild because I remember when they first suggested to me, I was like, oh no, I don't do stuff like that. Sorry, but just that the state I'd got into about this, like I'm not a good mother if I don't feed my baby. Like I guess it was postpartum depression. It was um, probably a lot of wounds coming up that I hadn't really thought about in pregnancy. So, being enough for the baby, I felt like if I couldn't feed her, then what kind of mother does that make me if I can't do the prime? Because everyone says it's you. Oh, all the baby will need is just you. It doesn't need anything else. She just needs you. She just needs the boob. And then it's like, well, if I can't provide the boob, then what am I doing here, kind of thing. Um, so anyway, I went on a bit of a mad journey with that. Like the doctors prescribed me a certain amount, and then they wouldn't prescribe me any more. So I found it privately, took some really high doses under the guise of a consultant, but it really messed with my mental health, obviously, because I was fucking with my hormones. And I know that in my rational mind now, but in those like initial periods, I was just like, it was like a fog.
Mm. Were you
Um,
ever tempted to just give up, use formula? Or was
I,
that the last resort for you?
it's really hard, right? Because of everything I do know about like health, like work with you, work I've done out otherwise, like the last thing I wanted to do was give her formula. And I did have to combi feed, and I did breastfeed for 7 months, and then it just got to the point where um, the next option was to increase the drug use again, and my husband was just like, I mean, I'd put on loads of weight. Not that that really matters, but you know, just the kind of symptom of what was going on with my health.
Really mimic, even when some of my clients have high prolactin, naturally it can be both a symptom of maybe a thyroid issue, but when it's high, it can mimic a lot of thyroid type symptoms as well. So weight gain, feeling low, feeling tired.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was exhausted and I was crying every day, and it was just kind of like there was always like another level I could push myself, and it was more of like an intervention. It was kind of like, let's like you've done 7 months, she's weaning now, like you know, which was good, you know, she now had food, but so yeah, that was I found postpartum very difficult and but really humbling because I think if I hadn't have gone through that because I had such a although I was very sick in my pregnancy, but I had such a meaningful journey with the pregnancy and the birth. I think I would have been insufferable if like if I had a really good
Yeah.
postpartum period, I would have been like, guys, it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's just like this forever. This is how it should be. I'm just an angel on this
Yeah,
earth, and
yeah. So I'm it's good to be knocked down a peg or two, you know, like because it's always good to remain humble. So I'm glad, and it's taught me a lot about like my relationship with Iris, and yeah. So that was a really long answer, and then in terms of work, I basically was unable to do anything in that period of time. Like I had it in my mind, I was going to take 6 months off, and then I was going to pick up a few clients and stuff, but I just my my whole focus, my whole energy just had to be on like daily survival. Um, so yeah, I actually took I was more switched off than I thought I was going to be. But I'm also really pleased because as much as it was a difficult period, like I really wanted to before I went on mat leave, I had really promised myself that I knew this time was really sacred and I really wanted to just be there and energetically give my support to Iris. Like I really didn't want to be like distracted,
Mhm.
and I manifested it because I couldn't be distracted in the end. But um, yeah, so then I just started picking up work around 7 months when I stopped breastfeeding actually, and been doing bits and bobs ever since, kind of just slowly trickling in. I'm still technically on mat leave. I go back properly in August, but it's nice to have a bit of a phase back in.
Yeah. And how do you think, like, how has your mindset shifted again? And how has you being a mother affected your approach to work?
It's been so good. I was actually talking about this with my husband earlier. Like, I feel like for me, like motherhood has cemented me. Like I know, and I don't want to be unsensitive because I know that a lot of people when they have a baby end up feeling quite fragmented, and it's a huge identity shift. And I've worked with mothers in that position, um, but for me, it's been like she's really made me feel more myself than ever, and really confident and really focused. So like whereas before with work, if I would kind of be maybe I would doubt myself a little bit, or I don't know, put something off because I was like maybe when I'm a bit older. I've always had this thing about with what I do because I think it's really important to work with elders. So you know, getting um, guidance, mentorship from people who are a lot older than you, which I always have. So I've always felt a bit kind of imposter syndrome about talking about the things I talk about at my age, especially because I started like in my 20s and stuff. I was like, oh God, am I too young to do this? But now I'm a mum, I'm like,
I've got all the experience.
I'm a
At
woman,
me.
I'm a mum. Like I've gone from maiden to mother. Like I've done that archetype in a very traditional way, and I feel that. I feel um like I feel blossomed.
I've also heard you really can't be like messing around with your time. You have like a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
You have to be just really focused and get stuff done. And
yeah,
anything that's maybe not aligned, any parts of work that just aren't 100% yes, like you just have to let them go. And it might be a little bit scary, but it means that the work that you are doing, if you are doing it in a short amount of time, you can actually be more productive and more focused. And you really, if it's going to mean that you're taking time away from Iris, you want to make sure that it's like 100% yes. Something you really want to
exactly,
be doing.
exactly. And it is exactly that. It's like it's just this ultra focus, and yeah, exactly. I found it very easy now to I kind of because I did have an actual break. I've gone back and looked at things and thought, oh, actually, like I can see where I was like being fluffy there, and trying to be too inclusive or whatever. Now it's like I know what I'm here to do. This is what I'm doing. Let's get on with it, and let's like do some cool stuff.
Is there anything you would have done differently? So thinking back to pregnancy, the very like early postpartum phase.
Yeah, I would. I think what I would have done differently is, and it's kind of cliche because I know a lot of people said it to me in my pregnancy, but I would have potentially um, allowed for postpartum support. So I actually think a postpartum doula would have been obviously extremely privileged to be able to do that if you can. But I think that's actually money well spent because as much as my husband, he was an amazing support, and um, we really navigated things together, and we had some good consultants and stuff, some good breastfeeding consultants. But you really just need someone to, if you are having difficulties with feeding or whatever, you really just, and also I guess for me, like I didn't have a mum, so I think that was like a really big void role. Whereas I guess, yeah, maybe other people would rely on their mum, but for me personally, I think maybe some postpartum support would have been what the doctor ordered.
Mm. And where did you find your doula? She sounds amazing.
She's so amazing. So I actually found her through a woman I do holotropic breath work with, and she recommended her. And like these women are incredible. Like Brighton's just full of these incredible
I know,
practitioners.
you're in such a good area. I feel like I need to start researching now somewhere in the northwest because it's not as holistic and
Oh,
so well-being focused. But I'm sure there's little communities out there.
it will be, or just come down and have the baby
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, these women aren't even on Instagram. They don't have websites. They're just like genuine wise women, and I feel so lucky to be like guided by them. And yeah, my doula was a brilliant person, and I'm still working with her now, just as collaborating on stuff, and yeah, very lucky to have her as a mentor.
And what does it look like throughout the pregnancy? Like at what stage do you start working with them?
Whenever you want, really. And I think for me, I looked around my second trimester when I started thinking about home births and things. And Jill, who I work with, she hasn't got like a program or anything. You just kind of go to her house, and I did some sessions with her, and then Craig came along and did some like sessions together. Because for me, him being like a supportive birth partner was so important, and it was actually great for our relationship as well. Like, she supported us in having loads of discussions around like not just my fears but his fears. So like one of his fears was what if we have to go to hospital, and I was like, well, I'm not scared of that, because if I have to go to hospital, that's where I want to be. And but yeah, sorry, I digress.
I feel
Yeah,
like the guy gets overlooked, don't they? Even postpartum, like if you were struggling as well, I'm sure he found that really challenging.
yeah, it must have been awful. And like for him, yes, watching me crying, because I was finding the breastfeeding so painful as well, because she had really bad tongue tie. Iris was crying. It was just I just, yeah, it must have been awful for him. And he was pretty like, and then they say the boy's useless at that point. They're not, but I can imagine it was really hard not to be in the hot seat. He was doing everything else, but yeah, it wasn't easy for him.
Well, you're on the other side now.
Yeah, no, and
So
that was
grateful for his support, even if he didn't feel like he could help you in the moment. Just him being there and
yeah.
being your rock is so important.
Any sort of thing that you go like that through with someone is brings you closer anyway. And we're so happy now. Like we're just feeling very grateful all the time, which is
Oh,
so nice. Yeah.
yay, I love that. Such a happy ending.
Yeah.
It seems like you've got so many like plans and ideas now, and you said that motherhood has just made you extremely laser focused and passionate and more excited than ever to share your gifts with everyone. And you're in the process of launching a little mini festival in Brighton.
Yes.
I love Brighton. I've only been once, but I was like, this is so cool. I love it here. So yeah, tell us about this that's going to be happening later this year.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you've got to come down to Brighton.
Oh,
So
I will. I really want it. What date is it going to be?
it's going to be, so it's just the little launches, well, pre-launch is the 26th of September.
Ah, because my it's going to be my 30th birthday on the 20th, so I might be busy then. But if it's the week after, I'm
Yeah.
sure I can make this trip.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would be so honoured if you came. But yeah, so sort of, I say I wasn't working when I was in the early stages, but your brain's always doing
Yeah.
stuff. I am in the process of launching Brighton Wellness Festival, which is kind of a culmination of everything we've spoken about, really, and trying to bring it all together. So I really want to provide a platform for the amazing practitioners here that potentially aren't like using the internet properly and things. I've got so much to give, as well as voices like hopefully yours one day. But I really wanted to bring people together from like different fields. So really looking at health holistically, so that from an individual level, people are suffering, they don't need to. That's like one reason why I want to do this. But from a collective level, I just feel like we're so disconnected from each other, from what we see on the news, from everything really. And I just really want to, I can't fix all that myself, but I feel very cool to provide a platform for people that can. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. We're doing a little pre-launch thing in September, very much working in a way of like putting things out there and seeing what's happening. But it's great because it's been a while since I've done something that's just reveals itself. Like in all honesty, like my brand now, Natasha Jackson, that's been it's been hard. It's been like finding the next step has been twists and turns and things, whereas this just feels really like aligned. People are just coming into it, adding to it, so supportive of it, want it to work. So I'm really excited about it. And it might fail, but as I said to you
Right
earlier,
now.
it might not.
It might be the best thing ever.
Exactly. And I really want to, if it did fail, that would also be awesome, because I really want to not be scared of things like failing,
And we use these challenges and these triggers that we have as an opportunity to learn something new and grow. And yeah, just anything. We were speaking before we hit record about how I even yesterday just had this download. I've been wondering like the next evolution of Viva Natural Health, and I just had this download, like I really want to support practitioners more and just have them have a knock-on effect on their clients, and just learning from myself. And that was just so well received. And I haven't even created it yet. I'm just putting something out there, and I feel like you should always listen to those little nudges, these little intuitive downloads and hits that we get, because there's obviously something in there. And yeah, if it doesn't work out, it's meant to be that way.
Exactly. But you kind of know, don't you? Like when you know when you have that thought, like it's like it's like it's a soul yes, a heart yes, and you're kind of like, oh, that's an interesting thought.
And I'm a generator. I don't know. Do you follow human design?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. What are you?
I'm manifesting generator.
Okay. I'm a generator, so there's like a lot of crossover. And the main thing for me is listening to my gut, my sacral
Hmm.
authority, and following path like what brings me joy, what lights me up. And if I do, I could work all day long. I don't get burnt out. It actually gives me energy. Whereas if it's something that I feel like I have to do, or yeah, I'm just not fully enjoying, it will zap my energy so quickly.
Yeah,
Learning
yeah,
that
very
just was like,
similar.
yes, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I was a generator though. Like I love being a manifest generator. We have this thing where like you don't have to finish a project to get
Oh
what you
yeah.
want from it. So like most of us, we do lots of stuff and we're like kind of get bored by our own idea
Yeah.
quite quickly.
Or like even with reading, there's like 10 different books on the go.
Yes, God,
I'll just keep starting a new one.
yeah, yeah. I'm so guilty of that.
And then with the one-to-one stuff, is that 100% online?
Yes,
Moment,
yeah,
yeah. And you're doing consultancy and coaching.
yeah.
So who would be a good fit for that? And yeah, tell us a little bit more about your services.
So on the coaching side of things, so I'm a self-discovery coach, and I help people who are kind of going through an identity crisis, or they really feel like they've got something they want to give, but they just don't know how, where, why, and they're kind of very much stuck. And always one of the things that a coaching client comes and says is like, I know I've got a voice, but I just don't know where to use it. So self-discovery coaching is more about really going inwards and very much a personal journey. And when we do look at, past, we look at present, we look at future, but it is very much about helping you rewrite any stagnant stories. um, I'm a big fan of journaling, and exercises and kind of reflections in that way. So yeah, coaching people, if you really just want to move past something, a part of your life that you're feeling like you can't do on your own, then yeah, I'm here to support that. And whether it's me or someone else, I really implore you to get help, because life's too short to spend sort of stuck in a place where you can't move forward. And then from the coaching side, we use a bit of NLP in that as well, but mainly working with health and wellbeing practitioners. We look at kind of any sort of brand direction issues. If you've got like a new product launch, if you want to actually go a completely different direction. So literally anything to do with your business and your brand, and also to do with like your the emotional side of things as well. So as you'll know, it's kind of not very different when you're a business owner. Like any sort of blocks you're having with your business,
Yeah.
they can be, a technical thing, but more often than not, there's a kind of emotional thing behind that. Like it is actually with health, like you're saying, if the mind doesn't allow it, then we can't do anything.
But running a business is like the biggest way to see your triggers, your limiting beliefs, your traumas come to the surface. And actually, the more that you work on them, you'll probably see that even though you're not directly focusing on your business, it will have a knock-on effect too. So it's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like the more the work I do on myself, the more success I have in the business.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I'm the same. The more I invest, like I actually mean like physically invest
Mhm.
money, the more money comes back to
Yeah,
me. It's a crazy
I've
thing.
seen that too. It
Yeah,
can be scary at first, but when you've got that evidence, again, like you were talking about before, when you've seen it over and over countless times, it always works out. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so paying for energy healing or a coach or the high quality food and supplements, it's
Mm,
just instead of seeing it as like the money leaving your account and you getting just nothing in return, just see it as it's helping you do the work in the world and yeah, helping your elevation and your health.
exactly.
But simple reframe had to do a lot of money mindset stuff as well, which I'm sure you have.
Yeah,
Many of us have these deep,
absolutely.
ingrained, like stupid beliefs that just aren't true at all.
Especially as women.
Yeah, exactly. Adds another layer onto it as well.
Mm.
But you very kindly have offered my listeners and anyone listening today 15% off your packages. So if they are interested, if they use the code VIVA for either the coaching or the consultancy, they can send you a message on Instagram or email. I'll put all of your details in the show notes, and I will ask you towards the end where people can find you. But I just have a few more last minute questions before I let you go, if that's okay. So the first one is something that you do daily to stay in hormonal harmony. It's
That's a
something that you're eating or a habit that you have,
yeah.
mindset practice.
I'd have had so much to say, Iris. I think
I'm sure
now,
your routines have shifted quite a bit.
it's actually really interesting because it becomes so much more about her health, and I'm working on that because obviously my health really matters more so than ever. I think a daily thing that I do now for hormone health, I'm really conscious of breathing because I at the beginning when I was like stressed with Iris, I was noticing I was really holding my breath. So every time I put her for a nap, I do the 5-5 box breath. So I definitely do that every day. I have my king coffee. I'm not meditating as much as I'd like, but I'm still like having moments of just this is my time. And it's hard when you're a mum because when they do go down for a nap, it's like, okay, crap, I need to do the washing up, I need to blah blah blah. But just giving myself 5-10 minutes of breathing, which sounds so
No,
small.
that's like my top for
I
month
used
now.
to.
The top recommendation is you don't have to do an hour meditation
No.
breathwork practice in the morning. It's actually going to be more effective if you just take little moments throughout the day, these little check-ins. If you go to
Yeah.
the bathroom, if you're driving, you're at a red traffic light, as you go in and out through the front door, just use those as little reminders. Or when you put baby down for a nap, just to give yourself 30 seconds or a minute, just paying attention to your posture, your breath, your
Mm.
thoughts, what's going on in your mind. Can you just give yourself a little affirmation like, I can do this, I've got this, I'm safe is a big one for women. Just
Yeah.
feeling safety, that combined with the breath is
Mm.
just like a magical combination because that's what our female brain thinks is going on. It thinks that we're in danger. Even
Yeah.
if you just trying to tick off your to-do list, it thinks that you're being chased by a grizzly bear. So just
Yeah.
I'm safe, just giving yourself a few moments. It doesn't have to be this big, elaborate morning routine. So love that.
Mm.
Second thing is something that you couldn't live without. This could be a gadget, gizmo, kitchen appliance, supplement, something completely non-health related, but you love.
I was just thinking my husband, which is
Oh, so
yeah.
sweet.
But no, I'm not a really gadgety person. I'm really not. I'm super emotional, so yeah, I would have to say my husband. Like he's the
Love that. I've actually
biggest.
not had that answer yet. I bet people are like kicking themselves like, damn, I should have said that.
No,
Anyone's
he's
listening.
everything. So yeah.
And do you have a book recommendation? Just something that supported your journey, mindset, NLP, motherhood?
Yeah, gosh, I've got loads of book. I'm just looking at my bookshelf. What would I recommend as like number one? Hmm. I think The Artist's Way, if you haven't done it, is a really good step into self-discovery. It's more related around creative recovery, but it's kind of the same thing because actually self-discovery is um, about reconnecting to like play and things that we thought were interesting as a child, and that's all linked to creativity. So it's a really tangible workbook to go through if you haven't got the means to work with a coach.
Nice. And if you found that motherhood, I've heard it helps you to really heal and kind of go back to your inner child a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's just I mean I did it years ago, and I think I've done it a few times, but it's just a really nice way of again talking about reframes of like looking at certain chapters of your life and and yeah, just kind of reflecting on it with a different lens and like rewriting it really. Because I mean, that's physically what she does. She actually asks you to rewrite
Mm.
stuff.
Wow.
So it's probably not dissimilar to what you've done with any subconscious work or whatever.
Yeah. And even at a recent retreat I was on, I went in thinking that I wanted to work on one thing, but what actually came up was that I needed to let go of the past still and these limiting beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have known. That was the
Yeah.
case. I went in with my plan, my very like type A Virgo organized plan. It's like, no, that's not what you're here for.
Oh, good for you though for like leaning into it because that's
I
I
love
mean
it.
sometimes you have no choice. It sounds like
Yeah,
probably one of those retreats where it was like, no, this is what you're doing.
yeah. I love it all. This whole world. Yeah, I don't know where I'd be without it, honestly. My passion. And then
Mm.
very last question is where can people find you? So your social media, your website. I will link everything in the show notes. So don't worry about having to remember everything. But yeah, if they're interested in your events coming up now and in the future, your one-to-ones, just to connect with you, where can people find you online?
So I'm on Instagram. I am underscore Natasha Jackson, and that's where I'm going to be talking about coaching consultancy, but also Brighton Wellness Festival for now, because I just do not need another account in my life. And my website is natashajackson.co.uk. So yeah, lots more there on like my approach and how I work and kind of areas that I work on. But yeah, always love having a chat with people in DMs. Yeah, as I say, I've had a weird relationship with Instagram, but I'm really working through that now and giving it good energy. So yeah, I'm there more than I was before. So if you want to know,
Love it.
people.
Amazing. And it's been so good just to connect with you again and chat and
Thank
catch
you.
up.
Thank
And I'm so glad that you're doing so well and yeah, good luck with all of your ventures. And I hope to see you in person at some point. And just for being such a great client. Honestly, yeah,
you.
glad that all of your hard work and the changes that you made. I know it wasn't like intense, crazy, like switching up your life. It is sometimes just the simplest steps or reminders, even focusing on yeah, recovering the body from stress and just seeing actually what's going on in your body, not just guessing anymore. That was a goal that you had initially, so just to like,
Mhm.
I think you said manage symptoms, but some of them can obviously be eliminated. But thank you for choosing me to support you on your journey, and yeah, I love working with you, and I'm excited to follow along the rest of your adventures and what's to come from Natasha.
Thank you. And ditto, just to say, like, I honestly recommend if anyone's had a conversation with me for more than 5 minutes about health,
Yeah,
I
and thanks for your referrals as well over the
yeah,
years.
no, I yeah, feel very grateful to have found you. I don't even know how I found you, but I'm yeah, Google rabbit hole one day, but
Yeah.
I did.
Symptom rabbit
Yes,
hole. Yeah.
exactly.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with me?
Yeah, yeah. Please help.
Well, it brought us together, and I'm grateful for
Yeah.
that. Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you. So nice to see you.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love for you to leave me a rating and review on your podcast app, as this helps to support the show and it allows it to reach more people with this valuable information. Come and say hi over on Instagram. I'm at Viva Natural Health. And if you haven't already, check out my website, vivanaturalhealth.co.uk, for tons more free resources and to discover how I could support you further. I currently offer one-on-one consultation packages if you want my top level support, then more affordable group programs and self-paced online courses. So there really is something for everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week for another episode.